Spring practice is, something that you do to make progress so that you're ready for the season. We want to have a great spring practice. We had a very good off-season program so that we're ready for the opener. And it's a process that every team has to go through. And I think it's something that you need to move forward in, not only in terms of learning your position, which is the technique, the fundamentals, what to do, how to do it, why it's important to do it that way, but also in things like effort, discipline to finish plays, mental toughness to be able to sustain and focus when things don't go right. All these things require every player taking ownership for how he makes progress to become a complete player in the spring. So, and then everybody has to assess, are you a liability, or are you an asset in this process for yourself and for your teammates? So you can't be casual in the way you approach spring practice. I don't care how good a player you are. I don't care what you've done in the past. I don't care how many games we've won. It doesn't really matter. All right, there's a standard that we need to do it to, and everybody needs to buy into that standard, because spring practice is it's like a project, man. It's like building a house. We're building a new team. It's got a beginning. There's a process of things that you have to do to build that. And then, spring practice will end, and then we'll have another phase when the summer comes. So where will you take yourself to become a complete player is what, I ask the players. What kind of effort, what kind of toughness, what kind of mental energy and intensity you're going to have, kind of sense of urgency you're going to have to do it right now. And that's going to help you become a smart, intelligent player, which is going to help us be a better team. So that's really what we're focused on and what we're trying to do. Everybody made it back, today from spring break and practicing helmets and shorts again. Had a good practice, had more guys doing it right today than we had the practice before, so we made progress. We'll practice Wednesday and Friday of this week, and then not practice on Saturday because of Easter Sunday, so the players will have another opportunity to be with their family if they choose to do that. So basically that's where we're at.
We'll start over here on the right. Aaron?
We've seen Rashaan Evans at inside linebacker. What have you seen from him lately, and what do you think his future holds?
Well, he's done a really good job. We recruited him because he had such a fast switch ability to rush on the edge, and he did a good job of that last year, and we'll still have every plan to use him at that. But we were looking to where can he develop to have an every down position the best. And, we do a lot of experimenting in the spring. We want to know who can do what, so we know how to put the pieces together in the fall. So we move guys around, we play them at different positions, and we'll do a lot of that. But I've been impressed with what he's been able to do so far. He is naturally instinctive at it, so it's just going to be a matter of him learning the position. And I think he's being a linebacker. That's not going to be something that's going to be overly difficult for him to do.
Back to the left with Michael.
You see some players on spring break that go to the beach, some players go and train, work out. How closely do you monitor that, and what do you take note of when you see some guys that are working out throughout the whole spring break?
Well, we tell players when they go on spring break that, we would like for you to work out 4 times. You're going to be going out of here for what amounts to 8 or 9 days. We would like for you to work out 4 times. And we'll know the players who worked out 4 times, who did not dissipate in terms of gaining weight, and who took care of themselves, because you won't be able to respond in practice like you want to if you don't do those things. Now, we don't call and make sure they do it. We don't have a postcard that they got to fill out. We can't make them do it, so we encourage them to do it. But the one thing I've been really pleased about our players here is when we've encouraged them to do things, they usually respond in a pretty positive way. They usually buy into it. So I didn't ask anyone how much they worked out over the spring, but it's a real indicator of how important football is to them, how important it is to be a good player. If a guy just went and did nothing for the whole time, he's not very committed to improving himself or his ability to have a significant role on the team. So I think it tells you a lot about the player's competitive character, how important football is to him, and how important the team is to him based on how he does those things.
Stay on that side with Cecil.
Coach, this is in some ways a technical question about offensive line, and I'm not an offensive line technician, so you may have to dumb it down a little bit. But are you still primarily an inside zone run blocking team, and how important is the center in that scheme?
Right. Well, we run zone blocking, we run gap blocking, and we run man blocking, all three. I won't get into the details of, how those differ. But I think the center is an important part of any of those schemes in terms of what he does. But what our center does for us that makes him even more important is he's sort of the leader of the front in terms of making calls, pointing out the mic, which tells everybody who they should block and who we're working to, especially when we're zone blocking. And we've tried Ross there, and he's done a really nice job for 2 practices. Haven't had pads on yet, so can't really tell much about that. But that's certainly a critical position, I think, in terms of a guy that handles the ball every snap and develops confidence with the quarterback that we're not going to have problems in that part of the game. And when it comes to the exchange and gun snaps and all those types of things, but it's also really important that the guy can reach somebody. If you're going to be a zone blocking team, and it's important that he can play with a certain amount of power so that we'll get a lot of penetration inside. So we obviously lost a great player at that position, and it's going to be critical for us to be able to develop somebody who can play it effectively for the fall.
Back on the right with Mark.
2 quick ones, if I may. How has Robert Foster progressed throughout his rehab?
Doing a good job, really good job. He's out there practicing. We put him in black shirt because he's coming off an injury, but he's doing everything that everybody else is doing, running all the routes, learning. He's playing them with a lot more confidence, and he's got better knowledge of position. I think sometimes you can learn a lot when you don't play. Some people think that you have to get a lot of reps to really learn, but sometimes I tell the story about my senior year in high school. We won the state championship, and in the state championship game, I got a chip bone in my ankle, and they put a cast on it for 6 weeks. So we went right from football to basketball, so I had to sit and watch. We practiced in an armory above the basket. I could never shoot very well. I was always a point guard, handled the ball, ran the fast break, and did all that, but I couldn't shoot very well. And I used to sit up in top of the armory above the basket and see how big the basket was from looking above instead of below. So I developed a lot of confidence in my ability to shoot the ball by watching the ball get shot and seeing how big the basket was, because it always looked pretty small to me when I was down on the court. So I became a much better shooter in my time off by sort of observing that. And I think in Robert Foster's case, he learned a lot last year when he wasn't playing in terms of what he needed to do to play winning football at his position, and he's played with a lot more confidence in these 2 practices in turn, knowing what to do and how to do it.
The second one, Reuben Foster is a guy who's got a lot of experience under his belt now. What's sort of the next step he needs to take in his development going to his senior year?
Well, Reuben played very well for us last year. I don't think we have any players that are good players who can't make improvement. Michael Jordan and Seth Curry are probably 2 of the most dominant players in basketball, and every time you watch a video about either one of these guys, all they talk about is what they got to do to get better. So that's the expectation we have for any player on our team, regardless of what they've done in the past or how good they've been. We don't have anybody in the room that's as good as Seth Curry or Michael Jordan, so I think we got everybody that's got a lot of room to improve, and that's what we tell the players. And it's knowledge of position, it's consistency in performance, it's better tackling, it's better pass coverage, it's becoming a better blitzer. I mean, we can go on and on and on and on, and I think every player can improve. Now, Reuben played a lot of good football for us last year, but I think he'd be the first one to tell you that there's things that he can improve on, and certainly we're going to focus on every one of those things this spring.
Back to the left with Matt.
And two quick questions for you, Nick. Just to follow up on Ross, what went into the decision to use him or experiment with him at center, and how important do you feel like it is to have somebody, if possible, with experience at that position?
Well, I think that experience is always a valuable commodity for any player. But you look at certain type players in terms of what are their assets. Quickness, moving feet, balance and body control are really important aspects of being a good center. Playing with power is somewhere in there. And so we have several guys on our team that we said, okay, we're going to look at these guys as centers. And we want to know if we have other people besides JC and some of the guys who have played center here that could play it in the fall, because that will give us the best opportunity to put our 5 best offensive linemen on the field, whether they're playing tackle, guard, or center. So, and we feel like Ross has those attributes as a player, so he was a natural to be able to take a look at that position.
And with Damien Harris, what do you feel like his biggest strengths are at running back? And where did you want to see him improve coming off of last year?
Well, I think, some young players are not really ready to maybe take the responsibility of the role that some guys have an opportunity to take when they're freshmen. I think that the experience that Damien gained last year certainly helped his maturity in terms of what he needs to do to be a productive player, and how he needs to go to compete at this level. I think he learned a lot of those things last year, and in 2 days so far he's done a really nice job. So is Bo Scarborough, and those guys will compete. And obviously the freshmen that we recruited will be able to compete and add depth as well. So I think consistency in performance is the one thing, and I think that comes from confidence and knowledge, and I certainly see a more confident, knowledgeable guy in Damien this spring so far.
2 more quickly, Tom, and then Alex.
Back here. I know at Pro Day you discussed Jay Coker in the NFL Combine and how that you maybe wanted to address some things with the NFL about that entire process. So going off of that, I'm just curious, what steps do you take when you want the NFL to address something? Do you contact them directly? Do you talk to former colleagues? I'm just curious what steps you take to express your concerns about anything really with the NFL and the relation to you.
Right. Well, I think that this is not a relationship just with college football or Jay Coker. I think this is something that affects college football, but it also affects the NFL. So if it affects college football, I would contact, and I have talked to several guys, and in the NFL as well as some college guys, about their concerns in terms of how these guys get graded to come out for the draft early, how we could have a better process of that. And the response is that I think everybody's looking for a better way, from a college standpoint as well as from an NFL standpoint. 97 guys went out for the draft or thereabouts this year. All those guys obviously can't get drafted in the first or second round. So, it takes up spots at the combine. People want to draft guys that are going to be starters. How many of those guys that went out for the draft, if they stayed in college for another year and developed and entered the NFL more ready to be a contributing player in a year, would have a better chance to have a career as a football player, rather than being short-sighted, being a 4th, 5th, or 6th round draft pick that has a minimal chance of making the team and an even a smaller chance of having a career that has any longevity at all. Average life expectancy of an NFL player is 3.5 years. And you're stuck with the bad contract. You're going to play for close to minimum wage and get a marginal signing bonus at best. So, and guy could tell me, I'm going to get drafted in the 4th round, I'm going to show him I'm going to go play the Pro Bowl every year. I said, well, go ahead. You're going to have a 3 or 4 year contract and make no money. So Jaron Reed comes back to school. He's got a chance to be a 1st round trip. He's going to make a lot of money because he developed and became a better player. And I think that's what the NFL wants guys to do, because they struggle to develop players in their current system, because they have no minor league. They have no place to send a player who doesn't make the team. So if you don't have a role on the team and you can't be a starter, or play on special teams and be an adequate backup, you're not going to make the team. So where do you go from there? You have nothing. And there's a lot of guys that fall into that. And all these guys say, well, I want to do it for my family and all that. Well, you're doing better for your family if you stay in school and graduate from college and make more money next year. And look at the record of the number of guys that we've had that have at second and third round grades that moved up and became first round picks since we've been here. And look at the position and status of their career versus guys that came out. We haven't had many that came out that shouldn't have, but you can look all over the country and figure that one out. So that's an issue for everyone. The NFL doesn't want it. And it affects the quality of college football, but more importantly, it affects the young man and his future in terms of developing a career off the field and giving him the best chance to have a career on the field.
Last one, really quick.
Kind of off that same thing, how important was it for this team, this offense, for O.J. Howard to come back? And where have you already seen some benefits, just a couple of practices in the spring?
Well, I think O.J. is, an outstanding player. I think there's things that he knows that he can improve on as a player. And I think that there's things that we can improve on to utilize him better on a more consistent basis, which we certainly plan on doing. And he's been very productive in the 2 practices that we have. And I think it's going to work out great for him. And I think it'll work out great for us that he made the decision that he made. So we're excited about it, and we're looking forward to him being someone who is very productive for us next year.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you.